So, like I said, I feel incredibly fortunate that I have the guitar in my life. I feel like it's always been kind of like a go-to for me, even as a kid. Like, I would just like go into my own world and just play for hours, and I would sort of emerge from that like feeling better if then like I accomplished something.
Hey, what's up, Vox&Hops heads? I'm Matt, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox&Hops Metal Podcast, brought to you by Sound Talent Media and Evergreen Podcasts, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians to talk about their lives, music, and craft beer. I hope you had a killer weekend. I most certainly did. This Vox&Hops episode is presented by Heavy Montreal. Heavy Montreal are Montreal's premier metal promoter, and I'm very stoked to have them behind the Vox&Hops Metal Podcast. Heavy Montreal has some killer gigs coming through Montreal during the month of October, such as Sabaton with Epica and Trivium with Between the Buried and Me, Whitechapel, and Chemist. If you would like to grab tickets to either of these shows, head on over to their website, heavymontreal.com. I have put the link to that in the description of this podcast. I am just beyond stoked to have Heavy Montreal behind the Vox&Hops Metal Podcast. Now, before we jump into today's episode, I'd just like to ask you to follow the Vox&Hops Metal Podcast on the podcast platform of your choice. But more than that, I would love for you to tell your guitar-playing friends about the podcast. If there's someone in your life that is just a killer guitarist, you know who I'm talking about. We all have that friend that's just an incredible guitarist. Well, you should let them know that the Vox&Hops Metal Podcast exists. You could tell them that there are over 360 episodes where I sit down with some of the world's best metal musicians, some guitarists, and we talk all about their life and metal while sharing a craft beer. If you'd encourage one of your guitar-playing friends to become a future Vox&Hops head, that would be something that I would truly appreciate. Now, today on the podcast, I'm very stoked to be back with Davidson of Revocation. Get ready, everyone. This is Vox&Hops episode number 368.
I warn you, what you are about to hear is very disturbing indeed.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Today I am back with Davidson of Revocation, Gargoyl, a bunch of other stuff. Guitar maestro, someone that is very impressive, cool to hang out with, laid back. I'm very happy to be back with you because we are not on Zoom.
Yes, we're face-to-face, in person.
It makes me very, very happy to be doing this face-to-face, in person. My first face-to-face, in-person, live interview back at Turbo Haüs on St. Denis. The way the podcast started, I can't believe I'm back doing this. It feels good. It feels really good. You are playing Montreal tonight. Yes. This is what I used to do. This is cool. Yeah. Shout out to Sarah from Looters for making me go back to my roots.
Shout out.
Easiest question, shittiest question, complex question. I already asked you it, but I want to hear how it continued for you. How did you cope with the glorious year of 2021, half of 2022, writing a record, killer record? What else did you do?
That was pretty much it. You know, I think I just focused a lot on my work. Learned all about recording, so spent a lot of time in the Logic DAW. Learned a bit about video recording as well, as so many of us did, because I was doing different collaborations. So learned a little bit about that, and I'm continuing to learn about that. And then, just wrote the record and recorded it, and now things are getting back to normal, it seems. So it's good to be back out there and playing shows.
Headlining, tour, Crisian, Alluvial. Who else is out there?
Inoculation. They didn't make it into Canada, unfortunately, but they'll be on the New York show. They'll catch up with
you guys once they can.
Exactly.
The New York show. Let's just dive straight into cool stuff. I love speaking to past guests, Vox&Hops alumni, because then I can hear how their craft beer palate has evolved. But before that, I'm thirsty. I rushed here to come hang out with you on a Saturday night. We were at Turbo Haüs. I choose all their craft beer. Whenever you come here to Turbo Haüs, ask for those craft beers. I'm the guy that chooses it. We are drinking something crispy from Lagerbräu, a very cool young brewery from here in Montreal. This is their Výčepní, which is very cool because it's exactly the style of beer that Lepotska just made for Vox&Hops. For Heavy Montreal presents Vox&Hops Brutal Montreal. We sadly have no lucre. I don't know if your lucre is, but where you get the massive foamy head there. Let's just how has your craft beer palate evolved? Last time we were together, way back on episode 190. This is probably going to be episode 365, 370. You were drinking a cocktail that your roommate had made you because they were testing out recipes for a bar that they were working at, a restaurant they were working at, and it was a beet juice, orange blossom, water, and rum cocktail.
Yeah.
How have you evolved craft beer-wise?
I'm still into like a lot of the same stuff that I normally was. So of course I still love like my juicy hazy IPAs and all that. But I don't know. Yeah, I feel like I've kind of like returned to more of a crispy boy style with the lagers and the pilsners. I don't know. I feel like I just kind of assaulted my palate with just hops for a very long time.
Hops.
Juicy hops, as we all did, I think. I mean, it was such a craze.
Yes, we did, yeah.
So yeah, I'm kind of going back into a pilsner lager kind of mind frame, I think.
Well, this is the perfect beer for that.
Perfect.
Nice, crispy, Czech-inspired light lager. Cheers to you.
Cheers.
Face to face. Love it.
We're back.
Crispy, cereal, malt forward. What's cool about Lagerbräu is that they don't even have a brewery. They contract brew out of Avant-Garde, which are a very cool brewery here in Montreal, in Czech Lager, in the east end of Montreal. And they do a bunch of contract brewing for breweries that are just starting out, which is cool because that's how they got their start at Czech Lager, and then here they are returning the favor. I love that very much. This is not a Helles, but you are making a Helles with someone that I like very much. Talk to me about this new beer collab. I love it very much. KCBC, the NETHERHELLES,
yes.
Which is a perfect play on words with the new album that you got coming out, Netherheaven. Come on, it's amazing.
I mean, yeah, we did a hell theme record. We had to do a Helles beer to go along with it. You know, when you're in hell, you're sweating your ass off. Last thing you want is like a milk stout or
Fuck no.
some type of really
Adjunct
intense
heavy.
IPA. You want a nice, crispy, just delicious, refreshing lager to cool down the flames of Satan as he's just like cooking you out sizzling you on the grill. Crack open another house and you're in heaven, really.
Now, Tony and the KCB crew are obviously legends. They're celebrating their 6th anniversary soon. I have actually never had any of their beer, despite the fact that they made a Vox&Hops collab. It's very difficult to get beer into Canada.
Damn,
and
that's messed up.
It's always very, very, very important to play by the rules, people. Do not mail me snow globes.
Right.
4.6%, the NETHERHELLES. The whole story of this beer, how did this come together? Obviously, the concept makes sense with the record, but, like, how did this conversation go down? I feel like when we did the chat last time, you had a collab with them in the works, but it never sort of materialized, I believe.
I think obviously the pandemic, a lot of things happened over that time frame, so it didn't quite work out at that moment. But the good thing is we circled back around. We kept in touch. I mean, Tony's just like sick dude, like
so cool,
like coolest dude. And a super nice guy too, just like really friendly, like easy to
rare
talk to.
People,
right? Exactly. He's not all salty and like
he's not in it for something.
Right.
He actually really likes
exactly.
people.
He loves metal and he loves beer.
Yeah.
So he's a friend of mine.
KCBC.
That's right. So yeah, we met. I think it was at the Behemoth. Like it was like a Behemoth like art gallery showing. I forget what record it was, but they had done a Behemoth beer that had come out like to coincide with the record, and I think he introduced himself to me. I can't remember how exactly we got to talking, but just started shooting the shit, and he was like, "Oh yeah, the head brewer at KCBC," and we really kind of stayed in touch ever since. So I can definitely say this has been a collaboration that's been a long time coming, and it's nice to see the partnership come to fruition.
When are you going to get your hands on this? You're going through New York soon. By the time this comes out, you're going to taste this beer. How involved were you with the brewing of the beer? Were you there? Tell me that story. And the decision, like Helles, came from the album concept. That's why you wanted to make a Helles, or was that a discussion that was made too?
We were kind of going back and forth on a couple of different things, and we settled on the Helles Lager. I wasn't involved with that. I mean, they've got a whole recipe and a whole...
Fuck yeah. Let people that know what they're doing do, and we can come up with the creative stuff.
Exactly. So I'm like, hey, I'm in good hands here. Just take me to Flavor Town, really. That's all I ask.
Did you go to Brew Day?
Well, so we actually did an interview there while they were in the process of brewing it.
So that's cool.
Yeah. So it was for Metal Sucks. Yep. not to drive people away from your podcast. But when you're done listening to this,
you can also go check out that. I'll put the link to it in the description of the podcast.
There you
so
go.
The people at Metal Sucks.
But it wasn't like, so I guess it was a brew day,
Netherheaven just came out. We're having a conversation like the day after it came out.
Yes.
So it came out September 9th via Metal Blade Records. Talk to me about this record. It was what soothed you and probably tormented you throughout the pandemic, the creation of a new record. It's always a lot of work that goes into it, and not to say that other bands don't work as hard as you do, but you're a prolific guitarist, so obviously you want to top yourself every record. So is it fun still pushing these moments in your
100%? Yeah, it's certainly a labor of love. It is a lot of work. It when I'm in writing mode, and obviously recording mode as well, but writing mode, it's occupying so much of my mental bandwidth. It's like a weird puzzle I have to solve. Like once I'm starting to write a song and really put the pieces together, I kind of don't rest until it's finished. So generally
one song at a time, one piece at a time.
Actually, I'll kind of bounce around sometimes, but I'll kind of have this mental checklist, and if I feel like I'm not getting anywhere with a specific song, I'll kind of move to the next line item and work on that, and then I'll jump back to it. Sometimes I feel like I almost maybe need a break.
Absolutely.
So my mind is always going, but maybe when it pertains to a specific song, I'll be like, all right, let me marinate on that. I've got other work to do. That way I don't get sort of jammed up in the writing process, and I can just let the ideas flow. And then, a few days later, you circle back to it, and then boom, something hits you, and it just makes sense. And then obviously when you're recording, you're really in it. I mean, when I'm writing, I'm still doing other work. I'm still teaching or maybe doing other collaborative things.
You're always playing.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is good.
Yeah.
It's basically what Matt Heafy did, dude. He doesn't have to practice anymore.
Right.
Because he's constantly playing.
Yep.
There is no practicing. It's just a lifestyle.
Yep, exactly.
It's like craft beer for me.
Right.
You don't
always drinking. Yeah, you're never sober. I love it.
No, but how involved, and I'm sure people have asked this before, but I am curious about it. How involved are other members of the band, or is it really a Dave show?
I mean, I like to play on everyone's strengths.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, when I'm writing, I'm coming up with the riffs and I'm coming up with the song structures. For the most part, I bring the other guys in once I feel like I have something that's worth showing them. I mean, when we're maybe rehearsing for a tour, if I have a riff idea or something like that, I'll bring it to the table just to have fun and be like, oh, check out this thing I wrote, and we'll jam it in the room. And that also sometimes kind of lets me know, oh yeah, this is actually really good.
And it comes by riffs. You're not building drum beats. It's like a BPM and a riff.
It's
like you don't present Ash like Ash, you play this beat. There's times that Ash has surprised you with the beat that he's pulled over.
I mean,
and has brought the song in a different direction.
Yeah, I don't spend my time programming the drums out. I can hear the drums all in my head.
Yeah.
And I mean, me and Ash are on such the same page that if I write a riff that I feel like clearly has a thrash beat pulse to it, I don't really need to tell Ash that. I think he just kind of can hear something and intrinsically be like, yeah, and then of course, if you have a thrash beat, you're probably going to be in the 200 to whatever 230 BPM range. So blast beats could work over it, and that's kind of where you start to have fun. Okay, let's try it with a thrash beat. Let's try it with a blast beat. Oh, how would it sound if we kind of broke it down and did a Slayer style kind of ride thing with the snare on the 3 and just kind of keep it driving.
Yeah.
So
there's bands making whole careers out of that right now.
Right. We'll put a riff through its paces for sure, and then we'll kind of settle on whatever beat we think feels the best for the pulse. And sometimes it might be multiple beats. Where the real magic comes in is in sort of little sort of nuanced things, like maybe Ash is lining up with the gallops on the guitar with his kick, or maybe there's a certain accent that I want him to hit on the hi-hat or on the crash or whatever.
That you've always imagined it that way.
Exactly. So we'll just kind of add in all those extra bells and whistles that really make it come to life. And it's the same thing with the bass. I mean, when I'm writing riffs and I'm giving them to Brett, I'll have a general kind of tonality in my mind, and then we'll sort of flesh it out from there. So let's say a riff is sort of moving through maybe a few different keys. So overall, it might have, 3 or 4 different, bass notes that are encapsulating
chords
the
essential
right
to
exactly
the riff,
to the riff that like
but
highlight.
Around that he has freedom,
right, and dress it up. And sometimes I'll come in with an idea. I mean, Brett's so great to work with because he just cares about the song at the end of the day. He's very like no ego when it comes to that. I mean, he's a great player, just an incredible musician, has really cool ideas. But like, you know, if I have a cool idea on bass, it'd be like, cool, yeah, just teach it to me. It's not even like, oh, well, I have to put it through my...
That's maturity in many years.
Exactly.
And trusting your partners, basically, you know? And songwriting is a partnership, and you're creating and painting a portrait together.
100%. And then obviously he'll bring stuff to me that will blow me away, and I'll be like, oh, cool, I never would have thought of that.
Is there things like that where he will write riffs that have made it onto records?
So he doesn't write riffs, but he'll write, like I said, like, you know, different bass lines. Maybe he'll add like a counterpoint thing. I think he really shines in like different, like, you know, techniques, obviously, that I don't have down on bass. So he'll do cool, like, kind of percussive, like, tapping kind of lines sometimes.
Which is totally not in your wheelhouse.
Yeah, I mean, I do tapping in my own way on the guitar, but it's obviously different, like, when it's on a bass, and it's, like, even, like, kind of, like, a different approach. And he even knows, it's almost like, you know, a composer, like, you know what sort of works on different instruments. Like, if you're composing for a symphony, you know, you have to know, like, the ranges of every single instrument. Like, you can't write something for violin that's, like, not playable, right? You can't write something for, you know, whatever.
Listen,
vibraphone.
Children that write on Guitar Pro.
Right.
Listen.
Oh, I've ran into that problem with students before where it's
Listen.
like... Right. You know, I've had students be like, is this playable? And I'm like, I don't know, can you play it? And they're like, well, no. I'm like, well, it ain't playable then.
I can play it maybe, but maybe you can't.
Right. No, some of it I probably couldn't even play. I'm like, this is crazy.
Talk to me about spider riffs.
Spider riffs. I love them. What's not to love?
What is a spider riff? I was watching an interview with you recently. You kept saying the word spider riffs. And I was like, what the fuck's a spider riff?
I think I picked that up from, I think it was actually Dave Mustaine that used that term in like an old interview, if I'm not mistaken. But I totally know what it means. I don't know. It just basically means like your hand just looks like this like spider that's just
because it's moving like
up
as
and
if a
down
tarantula is like walking up and down.
Exactly.
Your
when each finger kind of looks like the legs on a gnarly tarantula. And he's moving it.
I love it.
Double time.
And then like counterpoint. You mentioned the word counterpoint a lot, and that also in that same. I'll give Revolver a shout out. I definitely.
We're pulling everyone away from your podcast.
I definitely go check out that Revolver thing because I totally watched it last night, which I love doing. And I feel like a lot of people don't give the shout outs.
Okay.
But that's okay. Some people just take people's content and just make it their own.
Right.
I'm not going to do that.
There we go.
I love to do research, and watching other interviews is easy. Counterpoints. You mentioned counterpoints as an important thing in writing, songwriting. Can you explain that to me? I'm sure it's like a musical thing. I'm a death metal vocalist. I'm not a musician. I grunt on time.
Right. Yeah, so, I mean, you essentially... I mean, counterpoint has been around probably for as long as human beings have been writing music collectively. It essentially just means sort of two independent lines, right? Two or more independent lines. So if we're singing happy birthday together, these beers are kicking in.
It's 4%. We're okay. Yeah. It's light. Right.
If we're singing happy birthday together, unless you have like a beautiful falsetto voice that I'm unaware of, we're probably going to be singing like in the same octave in the same exact melodic line. So there's zero counterpoint happening there.
Okay, interesting.
Right. So if you were to sing like a counter melody to that, right, like you maybe go down when I'm going up,
yes, okay.
That would be an example. So there's essentially four types of counterpoint. You have parallel motion, which means if one note moves up a whole step, the next note, let's say the harmony is a perfect fifth.
I understand. So it follows.
It follows it exactly. So that was actually a big no-no in classical counterpoint. They wanted to avoid, in terms of parallel fifths, which is funny because that's like the backbone of like rock music. Is parallel fifths moving around. Although like I believe if you dig into some of like the archives of like Bach or Mozart or Beethoven, you'll find instances in their music where they are using parallel fifths. It's one of those things.
They were fucking badasses.
Exactly. That's why. They make the rules and they break the rules, right? That's how it works.
They probably sat there and like walked away and came back and like, fuck it, fine, I'm going to use the fucking parallel fifth.
Right. So that's an example of parallel motion. Then you have similar motion, which is the two lines are moving in the same way. So up or down, but with different intervals. So maybe like one line moves up a fifth, and the next line moves up a third, or something like that. So they're still moving together in an up or downward direction, but the intervals are changing. Then you have oblique motion, okay, which is one note stays the same and another note moves around from there. So to me, like I like to kind of play around with that idea, kind of in a loose way, with like kind of thrash riffs where it might have like one low, steady kind of bass note that's like, being like a pedal point kind of tone, and then a bunch of other notes that are sort of ping-ponging off that low bass note and moving around. And then finally, what I consider to be probably the most interesting type of counterpoint is contrary motion. So similar, the notes are moving together.
They're doing the
up
opposite.
Or down. This is going the opposite. So one note moves down, one note moves up. And the collection of all four types of that counterpoint, is basically cool music.
What makes interesting music.
Right. So it's not like you have to only do one or the other. It's more
playing
of
with all of them.
Exactly. So they're just kind of tools or colors in your color palette, if you want to call it that.
Very
Getting
interesting.
really nerdy.
I'm happy you did that.
Classical counterpoint.
I'm happy you did that
on a beer drinking podcast.
Oh, it's beer and metal and life. Something that's important about life, and you mentioned a little bit, walking away, moving to a different song. How do you deal, really? Fuck off, Wasp. It's early September. The Wasps are
Wasp
intense.
season. You're gonna get.
Hey, we're doing a podcast. Thank you. But that's all I had to say. But
He was like, big
sorry.
fan.
It's a Vox&Hops. Sorry. Bzz. But
Buzz off.
dealing with writer's block, what would be the main way that you deal with it? What's a technique aside from just moving to something else when you do hit a real wall? I spoke with Sylvain, and she had to just stop for months.
Work on, actually, I think it was Gorecki, who was a famous composer, said on the subject of writer's block, it's perhaps better to spend the time with a beer.
He's a fellow beer man. I like it.
Yeah.
Gorecki.
Yeah.
Come back from the dead.
Henrik Gorecki. He may still be alive.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, he's a modern guy.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'll take that back.
Yeah,
Gorecki.
great music. Nightmare
let's hang
stuff.
out.
Beautiful, but like some of his stuff's like really like gnarly sounding. But yeah, I mean, like for me, like I use that time to say, okay, cool, I don't have anything worthwhile to say, or whatever. My brain antenna is not tuned to the right dial right now of the creative forces that are out there. So let me learn someone else's music. Let me go transcribe this jazz solo that's blowing my mind. And so
that might just be the key to unlock the door. Even.
Exactly, or it just gets me just amped on music in general, and I just get that feeling back. I never put the instrument down. I never just like walk away entirely because there's just too much. Just because I can't write something doesn't mean
you can't have fun playing guitar,
right? Or even beyond fun, like unlock some like
skill,
or just appreciate someone's just deep sage wisdom on the instrument.
Do you feel like when you learn someone's solo, are you like entering their soul, or like feeling like a part of that person?
I mean, I feel like I get that experience when I'm listening to music.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, so I think certainly when I'm learning it, I get an even deeper admiration for it, or maybe it's a different type of admiration for it, because I've had amazing experiences when there's been no guitar in sight, and I'm just purely, the reason I play guitar so much is because I love music and live for those types of experiences. So yeah, I would argue I get it just listening to music, right? When you can really hear it, someone's like pouring their heart and soul into the music that they're writing, whether it's a song or an improvised solo or a symphony. I think they're kind of like telling you who they are, and you're sharing in that type of spiritual, meditative, whatever you want to call it, that type of experience. And for that reason, I think music is, it's certainly my favorite art form. I'm biased, I'm a musician, right? But it's just so powerful.
It's a huge part of ourselves that we put into it.
Yeah.
And to paint a portrait with sound.
It's a sound portrait, bro.
Gargoyl, you're hanging out with the boys last night.
Yeah, I saw
Tour kicked off in Toronto. What's going on there? First time we spoke to each other was about that record that you dropped.
Yeah.
So talk to me about the future of that.
So Gargoyl, we're writing music. The demos that Luke has sent me have blown my fucking mind.
Good.
Like, he is just such a great songwriter. He's gotten better as a vocalist too. I think he delivered an insane performance on our last record.
Hell yes.
He's just gotten that much better. There's like, at least in the demos, there's like a little bit of like that grunge feel is coming through more and more. There's some just a bit more, even just kind of, I don't know, sassy rock and roll attitude, for lack of a better term. You know, like, some of my favorite vocalists just have that. You know, someone can sing a note, but it's how you deliver the note.
Absolutely.
Right. So even just on the demos, he's kind of, I can just hear he's sort of having fun with it and kind of really embracing like the frontman feel, which I love. Even in death metal vocalists, I feel like, you know,
a personality.
Yeah, I want to hear someone. I don't want to hear like a carbon copy clone of somebody else.
No, you want a personality.
Right, exactly. So like we're working on music. Obviously, right now I'm just full
very
Revo mode.
Yeah.
But as soon as I get some free time, we're gonna definitely, you know.
Did you ever perform? I feel like you guys.
We did a few shows, and that was it. Because I mean, we were planning on doing like a whole
promotion of the
tour,
whole record,
and then obviously COVID hit, and I think we made the decision, like, we've been working on this record for so long, and let's just put it out, and we'll figure it out later. And then, like, I think things took longer than expected to get back to normal, and then by the time that rolled around, like, Revo was going on tour, and then the Revo record, so it's unfortunate, because I really think that Gargoyl debut was, I thought it was a really cool record, and I feel, you know, a little bummed that not enough people heard it. So if you're listening to this podcast,
check out Gargoyl.
Listen to, and there's no E at the end.
No, there's no E at the end.
Just Gargoyl. Who knows? Maybe it's a search engine thing.
You need to do like a collab with that anime from the 90s.
I know, everyone always thought, I never fucking seen that show.
So cool. I loved it when I was a kid.
Yeah, everyone's like, oh, like the show? I'm like, no. Like, Gargoyles existed before the animated show. What the fuck do you think that was bait? Where they just made the word up? Like, they're gargoyles that come to life.
All those things on those ancient churches, 1990 and later.
Right. They knew back then that there would be a short-lived animated series on Cartoon Network.
A heavy subject, and especially for you, it's a heavy one. Mental health. What do you do when you're not feeling well, when you feel like some of your friends are not feeling well? What is your tactic for yourself? We'll start with that. What is the best way to get yourself out of a funk?
You know, I honestly... Well, I'll start it off by saying this. I think everyone has their good days and their bad days. I've certainly have woken up, very depressed before. And, you know, it's hard to get out of that. I feel like sometimes it's almost like our brains, certainly depending on what your brain chemistry is, I think some people are more susceptible to it than others, just by whatever the luck of the draw is. But
to chemistry,
exactly.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're all susceptible to it, and you know, I think it's about maybe sort of recognizing that you're in that headspace, and then, like, I don't know, like, for me, just even going for a walk, like getting some vitamin D, like doing a little workout, like you start to kind of get some of those like endorphins going. You start to get some of that negative emotion out just through like sweating, and before you know it, you kind of forget that you're tired from a workout or whatever. And I don't even like work out, or I'm not like in like buff or like in shape. I'm just saying, like, the minimal amount that like I'll do will automatically just
reset you.
It just kind of resets your brain. Like, I don't know, it just kind of does something, and it's like it takes your mind off of whatever negative thoughts that you're having, and it's just like, oh, cool, like I got my blood pumping. You know, yeah, maybe you feel like a little bit like tired afterwards, but it's like in a good way. It's not like that like tired lethargicness you get from like when you're just being depressed and just like, oh, I just want to like lay in the couch and like watch fucking TV all day or whatever. Yeah. So there's that, but I feel incredibly lucky because I have music as my outlet. So that, to me, above anything else, is really, I think, the best form of therapy that I have, because, especially with metal, I mean, there's this wonderful alchemy there where you can take negative emotions, you know, anything, all of the negativity in the world that you can think of, you can sort of channel through, and it's like this weird primal scream therapy. Even just like the process of like writing the song and like playing it, even if you're not even playing it live, just like in the practice room, just kind of pull something out, and all of a sudden, like, you know, like a song about depression lifts you up, or lifts other people up. So it's taking these negative emotions and turning them into something positive. So like I said, I feel incredibly fortunate that I have the guitar in my life. I feel like it's always been kind of like a go-to for me, even as a kid. Like, I would just like go into my own world and just play for hours, and I would sort of emerge from that like feeling better if then like I accomplished something. And at the end of the day, like, I think that's the most important thing, is like, you know, trying to be creative, stay active, stay healthy. You know, like I said, just fucking vitamin D. You know, sometimes people just like that are indoors all day, and then you get depressed and you don't want to go out, and then it's just like this vicious cycle.
The modern world has us hooked up to devices all day, which are built to make us feel like shit, basically.
So get out there, go take a walk, grab a coffee, grab a beer. And don't drink too much, because that's not going to be good for your depression.
If you're not feeling well, don't drink too much. That's
or at all. You know, maybe just cut it down.
Take a break.
Yeah.
How about when you're feeling one of your friends is not doing well? What is your tactic there?
I reach out. Yeah. You just, I mean, to me, a friend is a beautiful thing. You know, otherwise they're just like, you know, an acquaintance, which is fine too. I mean, you know, everyone's got different people in different parts of their life, and maybe someone you don't really know that well. But you can still even just reach out to someone that you maybe are just on the peripheral of, if you feel the need to.
I do that often. If I see something weird,
exactly.
Just a message. Like sometimes a message is hypothetically enough to pull someone in the right direction.
Right. But you know, certainly if it's someone in your circle, I mean, why wouldn't you? I mean, you gotta like check on your friends from time to time, and you know, just let them know that they're loved. Let them know. I've had friends whether they went through like a personal loss or they were dealing with an addiction thing, and you know, just got to do your best to try to be there for them. Sometimes you don't want to talk too much. You just want to let them go. You know,
I think that's super important too.
Yep.
Just being there for your friend,
right?
Because sometimes in depression, you don't want people around,
right.
But if you're just physically there, they're not alone.
Exactly.
And it happens on tour, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You see it on tour packages. Sometimes something's happening at home. You see your guy, one of your friends that's on the package, is having a shit day.
Right.
Happens, you know? Yeah. And this is like, we're supposed to want to be here. It's what we've always wanted to do.
Right.
Even on those amazing tours, there's shitty days.
Oh, yeah.
There's ups and downs for everything and everyone. It's how we deal with them and how we approach them.
It's happened, I think, everybody, you know, in my band before, where, you know, it's happened to me. Someone's rolled up, you know, what's up? I know I know something's on your mind.
I can feel you.
Yeah, talk to me. And I've done the same for my other guys in my band, where I've rolled up to them and said, hey, something seems off. Like, what's going on? You want to talk? Sometimes they don't want to talk then, you know. You just kind of back off and be like, okay, when you're ready, maybe you circle back a day later.
Yeah.
And sometimes you don't have to. Sometimes
they bounce back.
They're just in a funk for a day, and that's happened to me before, where like I'm just in a rotten mood. But then, you know, tomorrow's a new day. I get whatever happens in your REM sleep or whatever, you kind of wake up and you can reset sometimes.
I love that shit.
Yeah, so that's good too. But yeah, just fucking be there, you know, and just reach out. Even the smallest gesture can actually mean a lot sometimes.
Absolutely. Abso-fucking-lutely. Color coordination.
All right, here we go.
I don't know if you saw my paper, but I love making collabs. This is not one. I typically have a collab when I do this. I was about to reach for a beer and say, I made this, but I didn't. But I did pick it here. I'm collaborating with Turbo Haüs, let's say that, to choose their beer list. I love making beers for myself. I love making coffee. I love making teas. You love color coordinating your guitars and your shoes. So how soon are you going to get that Nike collab?
Yo, Nike, if you're listening, holler at your boy. I got ideas.
What's up with this? I'm sure everyone's asked you, but I'm still curious. I think it's cool. Who's done this? No one's done this. The guitars to the shoes.
I mean, I just had to do it to him like that. I don't know. It was
because it started on this cycle.
Yeah. I guess maybe during the pandemic, I started
A shoe fetish?
Going down into the... I think we all had our own little forms of retail therapy. So I got into J's. You know?
Really? Okay.
I like the high OG, the ones. Oh, they're fucking cool.
So if you see one and they're in your size...
I gave a dude a shout-out today.
You have to buy them?
He looked at me like I had 3 heads. I was like, oh, hell yeah, dude, the high OG dark mocha. He was wearing a Cradle of Filth shirt.
And he recognize you?
I don't know. I was like, oh, dude, you got the dark mochas on. Respect. And he was like, what? I was like...
You have nice shoes, dude.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you go to a store and they have your size, do you have to buy them?
Okay, so this might be an unpopular opinion. This might get me, like, canceled for my Nike endorsement, but I don't think the Nike stores have, like, good shit.
We got to make it better. See, that could be our collab.
Yeah.
Well, how do you make them better?
Well, it's just, like, the shit that I think looks really... Well, so here's the thing. Like, well, Nike will do, like, drops, and then everyone buys them up, and then they're, like, gone. So, like...
The beer world has copied that business model, right? So,
like, you know, I'll go in, and, like, they'll have, like, a bunch of different styles of shoe, but, like, I mean, like I said, I'm a ones, high OG. No offense to mid guys or low guys. I like my high OGs. It's the thrash metal
Fuck yeah.
kid in me, you know? So, I'll see, like, one pair, and it'll be, like, I don't know, just some, like, color scheme that I don't think is that hot. But, like, so I'll go on, like, I mean, there's, like, you know, a bunch of different, like, websites that'll have, what is it, Stadium Goods or... and I don't even know how they do it. If they just, like, buy them all up and just, like, have this warehouse with those set them. Because, like, when they drop, they'll be, like, $180 or something like that.
Yeah.
And then, like, you know, a year goes by and no one can get them, and they'll be, like, you know, whatever, right?
Inflation.
You know, $800 or...
supply and demand.
Yeah.
This is what we're doing wrong with our music. Everyone could just get our music now.
Right.
Maybe the NFT thing is actually a good idea.
You know, right now, it might not be the best investment, but who knows? Maybe it's the bottom, and now is when you want to get in. But, yeah, I think if there was more of, like, an evergreen quality to some of those, like, classic designs, I would definitely be, like... I still do hit the Nike store, especially if, like, I'm, like, traveling abroad. I'll be like, maybe, like, in, like, Germany, there might be some crazy, right? But, yeah, honestly, every time I've only bought one pair of J's in a store, and it was in Hawaii.
Really?
And it was my first pair of J's. And looking back, I don't even know. They're cool, but they're not like they're like my least favorite pair.
So if Nike were to call you, what would your shoe really be if you could, like, custom design?
Oh man,
your collab Nike shoe.
You know, that is a really... I haven't thought about that yet. You know, I'll have to get my legal team to talk to their legal team. I mean, I love, like, a red. I mean, I think, like, the classic, like, Jordan, like, bull shoe with, like, the classic Chicago, the white and the red with the black. So, you know, maybe some type of play on that. I really can't. I'd have to think about it. Although I will say, you know, it could be cool to do, like, because they do, like, a couple pairs, like, really limited runs where, like, the swoosh is like not actually, like, it's, like, free floating, and there's just, like, a little bit of, like, it's, like, kind of embroidered into it, like, almost like a pin. But
these are shoes you don't wear, right?
No, you wear. Well, they're like $3,000, and they have, like, weird, like, writing on the side. So it's supposed to be, like, super limited.
I left my house with 2 different shoes today, and then I was like, this feels weird, and then I realized that I had 2 different shoes.
That's
on, and
fucking
I went
hilarious.
back home. It's a true story.
Oh my god!
They're the same, you know, but one pair is older. True story.
You're
Keep going,
you're a trendsetter here. I saw a dude wearing a pair of those in the blue color scheme, and they were just, like, so filthy, like, beat to hell. Like, he looked like he was, like, running through, like, mud puddles with them. And I'm like,
playing
damn, dude, like,
festivals
those
in
things
Europe
cost like $3,000.
Wow.
But anyway, so I would want to do something maybe, you know, creative and unique with it, but I haven't given it much thought. But Nike, if you're listening, it's not to say that I couldn't come up with an idea. You know, I just haven't given it much thought.
If anyone in metal deserves their own shoe, it's you.
If Nike were to call me, you better believe I'd have a pen and pencil, and I'd be jotting some.
I think it's cool.
Some ideas down.
I think it's you. I think it's definitely going to be. You're gonna.
Can we turn the Nike logo into like a pentagram somehow or something like that? Like that could be kind of cool.
I think you always have to wear color matched shoes from now on, though.
I know I can't. I brought two pairs.
You're stuck
on
with
tour
that.
with me.
I saw that pic, which inspired the question.
Yeah.
Anata called me. They gave me that album, by the way.
Are you kidding me?
No, I am joking. Of course.
Fuck.
Another shout out to Revolver last night that I watched.
I know. I was hoping someone would reach out.
3 sentences about Dan Mongrain and how important he is for everything that you've become.
What can be said that I haven't said already? Actually, Dan reached out to me recently because he saw the Revolver interview, and he's like, "Oh, thanks so much." Yeah, he's going to send me a Martyr care package, I think, which would be sick. Yeah, I fucking love Dan. He's incredible. I mean, he's still putting out insane shit. He's just one of those like gems of the scene.
And then I got one of those nicest people.
Yeah, not like super nice, super talented. He just is a truly unique, creative voice in the scene. And I mean, what more can you ask for with that? I mean, that's what every musician I think is striving for, is to have their own unique voice, and he has it all the way, and he has a level of technical proficiency that is just on another level. So he's also like kind of impossible to imitate for that same reason. So it's like not only does he have his own unique voice, he's like incredibly hard to copy. So
it's like if you were to just hear a new Dan Mongrain solo, let's say, you would know it's him.
Yeah, I would say so. Unlike, I'd have to hear like the whole context of like, would it be a solo over like a riff he wrote? Then yeah, I think I could pick that out.
I love that.
Yeah.
One last question. I asked it to you before. I'm wondering if it evolved. Your Hangover Cure. Last time you said the older we get, the worse it gets. Prevention is key. If you're stuck there, maybe just lots of water, some coconut water. Has that evolved at all?
Well, I will say, if you were gonna eat, I think like a nice bowl of pho.
100%.
You know,
a few people have told me that.
The star anise and the different, but like you got to go to like a legit spot where they're really simmering tons of different herbs and spices up in that cauldron there. And then like, you know, if you're vegetarian, that's fine. Probably a healthier option, but I think there's something to be said about that beef pho. You know, when they're cooking those like bones down, and there's like the collagen and all that stuff. You see that layer of just fat at the top. My mouth's watering right now. Oh, it's so good. There's a place actually in Richmond called Fotato. I'm going to shout out Fotato right now.
Hell yes.
They have one of the nicest waiters. One of the best waiters I've ever had, I think. Works at Fotato. Super rad dude. And the pho there is incredible.
I interviewed Dan, and
Mongrain?
I'm almost 100% certain that he said the same thing. A pho.
Oh, yeah.
Or miso soup. I can't remember.
Okay. Yeah,
I can't remember. It was one or the other, but it was definitely an Asian soup. So that's interesting that both of you have that same Hangover Cure.
I mean, ramen might help just because it that fat content, but I think pho is a cleaner cure. You know, it's like the broth is a little thinner. It's not as heavy. Like you can eat pho and like eat a bowl of pho, take a nap. Maybe don't opt for the Vietnamese iced coffee. See, that's the danger, right? Because I just have to do the Vietnamese iced coffee when I get pho. But if I'm hungover, getting like a lethal injection of caffeine is just going to up the anxiety factor.
Anxiety.
Yeah. Oh God, it's the worst. So I think maybe don't get I know you want it. I want it too. But don't get the Vietnamese iced coffee. Just do the pho. Take a nap.
Then get the iced coffee.
Then get the iced coffee when you wake up. Or just don't caffeinate at all that day. That's the day you can just be a total piece of shit.
Dave, thank you so much hanging with me yet again, talking about your life, music, craft beer, everyone. Revocation, the Netherheaven, just came out. Metal Blade Records, September 9th. Check it out. You're going to like it. Dave, this is amazing. Face to face. Here we go. We fought a bee together.
Cheers, man.
It was awesome. Cheers. Hey, thank you all so much for listening right to the end. You know that I love and appreciate that. Man, this was just a killer conversation. It felt so good to be doing a face-to-face interview once again, back to my roots. It's just incredible how long it had been since I've done this. Typically, when I do these chats, I go meet the artists at the venue, and then we walk together and we have a little bit of a moment, just chit-chatting about life and tour until we actually get to the bar. Massive shout out to Turbo Haüs for giving us a great place to have a nice conversation. And then, we start the interview. It just felt like old times. It was awesome. Massive cheers for Dave for being just an awesome, awesome guest. He's truly one of a kind, one of the best guitarists, one of the best performers out there, and what a great person to talk to. I had a blast, and I hope that he did as well. Now, if you enjoyed this Vox&Hops episode, you should sign up to the Vox&Hops Metal Podcast mailing list. You can do that on my website, voxandhops.com. That's VOXANDHOPS.com. And when you do that, you shall receive one email a month that will contain all the details of everything that has happened in the world of the Vox&Hops Metal Podcast. You will get to see which episodes I dropped recently. You'll get to see which episodes I have coming up. You will get to see which albums the Vox&Hops album review crew have reviewed recently. You will also get to hear about any projects I have in the works before I announce them to the public. And you will get to see which albums Jerry Monk, the metal architect himself, has added to the Brutal Awakenings playlist. There's always a lot going on in the world of the Vox&Hops Metal Podcast, and I'd hate for you to miss a single thing, so please sign up to the mailing list. The Vox&Hops Metal Podcast is brought to you by Sound Talent Media and Evergreen Podcasts. I will be back next Tuesday with another Heavy Montreal Presents Vox&Hops episode, but until then, remember to enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. Cheers, Vox&Hops heads.